After completing my 10th class exams in 1979, my father suggested that I go and help my father's uncle and learn astrology. Mathematics being my favorite subject, I learned the calculations. My grandfather taught me how to calculate the inclinations of each planet and how to calculate the lagna and the meridian center MC, and he gave me some birth charts to draw. Thus, I learned how to draw the birth charts first and showed interest in predictions. So, my grandfather told me some predictions, some of the tips that he usually uses for predictions, and after learning those tips, I documented some of them. I verified with my father. While my father and my grandfather have laid the foundation for me to get interested in astrology, for almost a decade or 2 decades, I didn't show any interest.
Welcome to Sastry Karra's astrological series. This is the series where I'm going to present you about multiple planets impact analysis. In the first part, I mentioned I took two female chart examples and explained how multiple planets, when they are in the same house, how it impacts the native's life. Now I'm going to take another one. This is a male chart where almost 5 to 6 planets are there in one particular house, and of which Saturn, Jupiter are co-joined. Sun, the lord of the sixth house lord, is inside the sixth house where Saturn and Jupiter are co-joined, and Mercury, the lord of the fourth and the seventh house, is also in the sixth house. So you see minimum 4 planets, important planets, in the sixth house and co-joined with the Rahu. So let me go and explain. And for this particular native, even at the age of 38, why this native is not able to get married. From an astrological perspective, I am going to explain how these multiple planets, because of multiple planets in residing in the one house, in a single house, how they impacted the native's life. I hope you will like this presentation. Thank you very much. This is the male chart which I'm trying to explain why this particular native is unmarried as of now. When I say as of now, this is January 2018, so almost 37 or 38 years old, and still this particular native is unmarried. This is a male native. So when you look at this chart, what you can see is that Lagna Lord is Jupiter, and the first house lord Jupiter is residing in the sixth house. So when you start looking at the lagna lord, what you need to see is, okay, how is that lagna lord did the lagna lord get afflicted? That's the first question you ask yourselves when you see the chart. The lagna lord is Jupiter and is also the 10th house lord. The Jupiter is in the sixth house, so that means he is in the Rogasthanamo. That itself tells you that the native has some sort of a medical related issues, because because the Lord is in Rogasthanamo. And the next part is the Jupiter is co-joined with Sun. The Rogasthanadipati is Sun. So Jupiter is co-joined with Sun. So the Lagna Lord is co-joined with Sun. Apart from that, just by breezing through a quick look, what you can see is that Jupiter is co-joined with its bitter enemy Saturn and Rahu. So the Lagna Lord got completely afflicted because of Saturn and Rahu, and the Lagna Lord is residing with the Rogasthanadipati. So overall, this particular native, when you see it, the Lagna Lord is not strong. So whatever this particular native life is, one thing is for sure is this particular native will have repeated medical related issues,
which is the Rogasthana and sometimes sixth house deals with the deaths, illness, and employment conditions. So this particular native will have the number of deaths on his name, and the employment conditions is not at all comfortable for this particular native. Since this particular native is unmarried, we are going to only to talk. I'm only going to talk about the reason, astrological reasons why this native did not get married. Second, let's go and try to look at the other important houses. The second house is Lord is Mars. Mars is in the fourth house, home life environment or Sukhasthanam. Then comes the fourth house. The fourth house Lord and the seventh house Lord is Mercury. Mercury is in the sixth house, co-joined with Saturn, Jupiter, Rahu, Sun, and Venus. That means the number of planets are co-joined in the sixth house, and the fourth and the seventh house Lord Mercury is one among them. This is the very important point that we have to keep in mind when we are looking at the astrological reasons for Vivaha Vilamb for this male native. Now that we have said the seventh house is over, then you go all the way to the 11th house. 11th house is house of desires or Kamasthanamo. 11th and the 12th house is pleasures of bed when you are looking from the marriage perspective. So the 11th and 12th house lords is Saturn. That means when Saturn is the 11th and 12th house lord, one thing is it indicates is that the desires for this particular native and the pleasures of bed that this particular native is going to achieve will be through someone that is against through the female or get married, and which is against the social norm. That means when I say against the social norm, I mean marrying an intercaste marriage or an inter-religion marriage, or marrying a widow, or marrying a divorcee, or having extramarital affairs with a married women. So these are all the things that are against social norms. So because of that, this particular thing, there is a lot of the house lords are being not that much stable. The reason being the native was not able to get married. Now that in the next slide, what I'm going to do is like take the sixth house, exclusively the sixth house, and try to explain why this particular native did not get married. Let me now start figuring out the sixth house. First and foremost, when you look at the sixth house, what you see is that there are multiple planets, and as I said earlier in one of my presentation, when you see more than 2 planets, the first and the foremost thing that I do is I calculate the Graha Yuddha or the planetary warfare. I'll try to find out who is the winner of the planetary warfare in the planetary warfare. And there is a rule for Graha Yuddha. The rule states that if Saturn is one of the planet that is involved in Graha Yuddha, by default Saturn is the winner. So irrespective of whether there are 4 planets or 6 planets in that particular house, if Saturn is one among them, the Graha Yuddha, you don't need to do any more Graha Yuddha. By default, Saturn is the winner. So here in the 6th house, Saturn is the winner. The 11th and 12th house lord is the winner and is in the 6th house. So now let's go and see where is the winner residing. The winner is residing in the house owned by Sun. Saturn and Sun are bitter enemies. That means the Saturn, the 11th and 12th house lord, is residing in the house owned by its bitter enemy. As if this is not sufficient, when you look at it, Sun is also residing in the 6th house. So Saturn is residing in the house owned by its bitter enemy, and the bitter enemy Sun is also in the house. That means the particular house, 6th house, is completely got spoiled. To add Rahu being the catalyst to Saturn is also in the 6th house. So now the power of Saturn got more increased, and the 6th house, the affliction and the 6th house is very, very, very high. That means there is nothing, any other planet, even though they are benefic, if there are any other planets inside the sixth house, they are not going to show their benefic powers because of this reason. Now comes, what are the other planets residing? As I said earlier, the fourth and seventh house lord Mercury is residing. The Jupiter, the Lagnadipati Jupiter is residing. Venus, the planet responsible, the natural Karaka for marriage, Venus is residing there. So Venus got spoiled. There's no way that Venus can help you. Jupiter, the Lagnadipati, got spoiled. So the no way the person has any the destiny of this person to get married is zero. And then comes the most important is the Mercury. Mercury is the fourth and seventh house lord residing in the sixth house. There is a rule. I think it was I remember listening the rule said by Gayatri Devi, the daughter of late B.V. Raman. And according to the rule, if the sixth house lord is in the seventh house or vice versa, that means if the sixth house lord is in seventh house or the seventh house lord is in the sixth house, either of these things happen, two things are sure to happen. Either the native will never get married, that's the first thing. Second thing is, if the native gets married, the native will remain, will get divorced very soon, or the native will become a widow. So either of the conditions, the marital life for this particular native is close to zero. The native will not have any sort of a happy marital life. Having said that, since this native is almost 38 years old, close to 38 years old, male native, and haven't got married, looks like in the rule, as per the rule, the native will remain unmarried. But still there is a small chance for this particular native to get married, very, very small chance, because Saturn is ruling the sixth house, and from the sixth house both Saturn and Rahu are directly aspecting the 12th house. Saturn is the lord of the 11th and 12th houses. That means when it comes to the pleasures of bed, which is the 12th house, Saturn and Rahu are looking at the pleasures of bed, the house owned, the 12th house, and Saturn is the lord of the Kamasthanadipati, or the house of desires. So there is a slight, extremely slight possibility for this particular native just to get married. Will the marriage will be happy? It's zero. It's impossible. Will the marriage last for a long time? No way. Either the native will get divorced or the married girl might die, depending upon the chart of the girl. But one thing is for sure, if this native wants to get married, the only way the native can get married is to go for and marry a girl against the social norms. The social norms is intercaste, interreligion, or marrying a divorcee, or marrying a widow, or marrying or having a physical relationship, which is nothing but the 11th house is the house of desires and the 12th house is pleasures of bed. So having a physical relationship with a woman who is already married. So to be honest, I have no idea anything about this particular native. Only thing I know is that this particular native is unmarried as of January 2018. Let us now try to analyze the chart and look at the Vimsottari Dasa for this particular native. The Vimsottari Dasa, the Mahadasa Venus started in 1993. So approximately in the year 1993, the native is around 24 to 25 years old. So Venus Mahadasa is very important here because Venus is the natural Karaka for marriage for both men and women. Let's go and see which houses does Venus own. In this chart, Venus owns the 3rd and the 8th house. 8th house is Marakasthanadipati. So the 7th house, natural 7th house lord is owning the 8th house. 8th house sometimes deals with the secret affairs. So the 7th house lord is owning the secret affairs house. So that's one thing you have to keep in mind for this particular native. And the next one is that the natural natal Venus is residing in the 6th house, the house of separation, and it co-joined with two strong malefic planets, Saturn and Rahu, where Saturn is the 12th house lord, pleasures of bed, and both Saturn and Venus, they all are having a direct aspect on the 12th house. Not only that, even the Venus is co-joined with the 6th house lord Sun and the 1st house lord Jupiter. The 6th house being highly afflicted and Venus being the 8th house lord and residing in the 6th house, in the afflicted house with some of its enemies and two malefic planets, the Venus Mahadasa is nowhere helped this native to get married. Now we can go and try to see, like for this particular native, where is the transit Saturn during the period. If you look at it, the transit Saturn in June 1993, it entered Aquarius, that is the 12th house from Rashi Lagna, and the house that is owned by Saturn, and natal Saturn is looking at Aquarius too. So having spoiled, residing in the 6th house and spoiling the 6th house and controlling the 12th house, while natal Saturn doing all these things, transit Saturn by entering the 12th house is doing exactly the inverse of what natal Saturn is doing. That means residing in the 12th house, its own house, controlling the 12th house, and then looking at the 6th house. So during that period, the chances are 0. Next comes in June 1996, transit Saturn is in Lagna, the first house owned by Jupiter. So Jupiter, because it is the owner, the house is owned by its enemy, Jupiter, and natal Jupiter is co-joined with transit natal Saturn. Transit Saturn will not let anything happen for this particular native. Then goes to the 2nd house Aries, that is in June 1999. The most important thing when it comes to June 1999 is that transit Saturn is in Aries, and exactly during that period, even transit Jupiter is also in Aries. And Aries is the place where Saturn is debilitated. So Saturn became a little bit weak here, residing in the 2nd house. But it has co-joined with the 2nd house. So naturally, the 2nd house, there is a clash because of these two planets residing in one particular house. That particular house will always be dynamic and extremely chaotic. Now let's go to June 2004, where transit Saturn entered Gemini, that is the 4th house, and now here it co-joined with another violent planet, natal Mars, who is the lord of the 2nd house. So the chances are not there. In June 2009, transit Saturn entered Leo. There you go. In June 2011, it entered Virgo, that is the 7th house. Natal Saturn spoiled the 7th house, and now transit Saturn is sitting in the 7th house, so that's not cannot happen. In June 2013, transit Saturn entered Libra, that is the 8th house. 8th house from Rashi Lagna and 12th house from Chandra Lagna. In Libra, Saturn is exalted. That means because it is in the 12th house from moon, natal moon, that means the sedation started just then. Now transit Saturn is exalted, it has got amplified. As if this is not sufficient, you can see transit Rahu also in Libra for some period. So no chances for this. Once the transit sedation began in somewhere in 2012 November or January 2013, somewhere at that time when transit Saturn entered Libra and the sedation began for this particular native, from that period for 7.5 years, the chances for this particular native to get married is completely close to 0.
Let's now go and look at the Bihuru Chakra Paddhati for this particular native's chart and see if through Bihuru Chakra Paddhati is there a way we can predict the possibility for this particular native to get married, or at least to find out the reasons why the native could not get married until now. If you look at the Bihuru Chakra Paddhati, the native completed his 23rd birthday in 2002. In 2002, the Vimsotari Mahadasa, the Mahadasa that is running in 2002 is Venus Mahadasa running, and we know that Venus is no way helped the native to get married. So the only possibility for this particular native to get married is during the Mercury, when Mercury activates the 12th house. Mercury being the 4th and 7th house lord, residing in 6th house and having a direct aspect on the 12th house, it activated the 12th house for this particular native during that period. And even though the 12th Mercury is also co-joined with the 12th house lord Saturn, so that was the first possibility for this particular native to get married was after the 23rd birthday and before the 24th birthday. We knew that the native couldn't get married. So let's go all the way and see. During the Venus Mahadasa all the way till August 2015, the chances are close to zero for him to get married. So let's go and look at the next cycle ruler Sun. Cycle ruler Sun, when it in August 2016 through August 2017, cycle ruler Sun activates the 2nd house. So when you look at it, the 2nd house from Rashi Lagna is Aries, owned by Mars, and Mars is in the 4th house. No way doing. And the 2nd house from natal Sun is the 7th house, because Sun is the 6th house lord residing in 6th house. The 2nd house is the 7th house, but the 7th house lord Mercury is also residing in the 6th house, and the whole 6th house got spoiled. So even though Sun activated the 2nd house from its natal position between August 2016 and 2017, because the Lord got afflicted, and not only that, even Saturn and Jupiter had spoiled the 7th house since it is next to their residence. If Sun activating this house had no way impact on it, and the native could not get married. Let's now look at the Bihuru Sarla Paddhati. There are two important rules that first we have to look with in the Bihuru Sarla Paddhati, irrespective to the native's age and gender. The first one is pertaining to Saturn, the second one is pertaining to Jupiter, the two giant planets. First of all, when you look at the Saturn rules, the first rule it says is that wherever Saturn resides, he shouts that he is the emperor of that house. That means Saturn, wherever he resides, he rules that house. We know that Saturn by default owns 2 houses, so now he is ruling the 3rd house. Even though if he doesn't own it, still he rules that house. So here that's exactly equal to the way it was mentioned in Graha Yuddha. Even in Graha Yuddha, they said that if there is any planetary war between more than 2 planets and one of them is Saturn, by default Saturn is the winner. That's exactly what the Bihuru Sarla Paddhati rule number 1 states in a different format. So the 6th house, even though Sun owns the house and Sun is residing in the house, Sun could not be the owner of that house. Anything that happens in the 6th house will be decided by Saturn, because due to this Bihuru Sarla Paddhati rule. The second rule that is important to Saturn is that Saturn spoils or destroys the house next to its natal residence. So wherever Saturn resides, the first thing he will surely do is that he rules that house, and then the next house he spoils or destroys the house next to its residence. Here for this particular native, Saturn is in 6th house, so he is ruling the 6th house. 6th house is the house of separations when you look at the marital life for a native, and he is spoiling the 7th house. 7th house is Kalatrastanuma or house of marriage. So this clearly tells you that how and Saturn owns the 11th and 12th houses. So this clearly tells you that for this particular native, the 12th house and the 11th house is owned by Saturn. The house of separation, the 6th house, is controlled by Saturn, and the 7th house, the house for marriage, has been spoiled by Saturn. That's the reason why you see this particular native having so much trouble getting married. The next important BSP rule that we have to look at is pertaining to Jupiter. It states that if Jupiter is afflicted, the word is if afflicted, it also spoils or destroys the house next to its natal position, just like Saturn does. So we have to first look at it, is Jupiter is afflicted in this position. When you look at it, the first thing, Jupiter, the Lagnadipati, is residing in the 6th house, which is the Rogasthanamo. So the house where it's residing is not a good house, number one. Number two, it co-joined with the natural malefic planet Saturn and its bitter enemy. Number three, Jupiter is co-joined with Rahu, another malefic planet. So Jupiter got afflicted here. And now that Jupiter got afflicted in the 6th house, for sure it spoils the 7th house. If you look at it, these two, based on about these two rules, Saturn is spoiled the 7th house, Jupiter also spoiled the 7th house. While Saturn is the lord of the 11th and 12th houses, Jupiter is the Lagnadipati. So the possibility for this particular native to get married is close to zero.
Finally, I want to consider the Bihurgu Sarla Paddhati rules that we are all aware of, thanks to Saptarishi astrology team, Sunil John, and he is the one who took the responsibility of sharing some of the Bihurgu Sarla Paddhati rules to all of us. Thank you very much, Sunil. So let's go and look at the Bihurgu Sarla Paddhati rules. If you can see it, most of the rules that we are aware of starts in somewhere in 2002 and goes all the way till 2014. That's very important here. So from 2002 to 2014 is very important. And if you look at it, the most important thing that I would like to emphasize in Bihurgu Sarla Paddhati rule is, when Saturn and Jupiter co-joins in any house, it spoils the bhava of the Aries. Aries is the 2nd house from Rashi Lagna and the 6th house from Chandra Lagna. So that particular bhava got spoiled. That means the destiny of this particular native to start a family, the 2nd house deals with Kutumbasthanamo, start a family, is gone. Also, that is the major one. The minor one is that the 2nd house deals with the Dhanasthanamo, wealth. So the native will not have stable wealth or stable money to say that yes, I did have so much money in my bank account, or I own a property that was worth few $1,000, something like that. The native will not have any such sort of things. That is for the rest of his life. Now, when you look at all these Bihurgu Sarla Paddhati analysis rules, there is only one person at the age of 32. Mars is the only one that you can see that activates the 7th house from Rashi Lagna. Mars is the only one that can do it. That was in August 2010 through 2011. That did not happen. So finally, for any reason, for a variety of reasons, this particular native is no way have the ability to get married. Thank you for watching my video presentation. This is the multiple planets impact analysis, second part, where I considered only one particular male chart and then analyzed it. When I get more examples of multiple planets impact analysis, then I'll try to post more presentations for this under this title. Thank you very much.